audible enough? No background noise or no disturbance? Yeah, it's 52. You wanted to say something? Cool. So let's proceed. Welcome back to the Android course. I hope you been working with your assignments and learning new things. If not, no worries. If yes, and if you have any doubts, feel free to ping me. Uh, Today, we're gonna learn about networking in Android. Okay. Before proceeding, when I say networking in Android, what comes what comes into your mind कि networking क्या होगा Android में? Like what can be an example of networking in Android?
And connecting with servers and databases.
Database तो local भी हो सकता है. Connecting with servers, right? Can we have some more examples?
As we
Me,
learned in the previous chapters about previous courses about the repository pattern, in which we used to connect the data with the remote data with our code base. So that may be a case of the network.
Okay. Yeah, Raj, go ahead.
for making HTTP calls.
What about GraphQL calls?
Yeah, like how we can.
Correct. So you understood what my question was. मेरा क्वेश्चन ये था कि नेटवर्किंग क्या है, मतलब हम किस चीज को नेटवर्किंग बोल सकते हैं इन एंड्रॉयड कॉन्टेक्स्ट. सो लेट्स टेक अ वेरी सिंपल एग्जांपल. अगर आप व्हाट्सएप में किसी को मैसेज भेजते हो तो इट्स अ नेटवर्क कॉल, राइट? If you back up something, or if you send a photo via mail, that's a network call, right? Now the process behind it, the architecture behind it, the pattern behind it can differ, राइट? जैसे फेसबुक अपने लिए ग्राफक्यूएल इस्तेमाल करता है टू लोड डेटा फॉर योर इंस्टाग्राम फीड्स. लेट्स अज्यूम, आई एम नॉट प्रीटी श्योर बट लेट्स अज्यूम. ओके. हम लोग अपने बेसिक ऐप में जो करेंगे वो एच टी टी पी कॉल करेंगे, राइट? सो थिंग्स कैन डिफर बट द आउटपुट रिमेन द सेम, that we wanted to fetch something from the servers into our mobile application. Okay, so we're gonna learn that how we can do in Android. Okay. Now for context, we're gonna learn about different network calls. Okay. uh, we gonna learn how to send a request and handle response. Okay. Different kind of http calls. Okay. We also gonna learn how to parse or how to serialize and deserialize our objects or our response in order to get the output result. Okay. So this class is being meant to kept it very very simple, as simple as possible. But trust me, this networking concept can go very deep. Okay, and can have very variations. But the whole point is to keep it basic. So you first understand to make some basic API calls, then you can always proceed ahead to increase the level. Okay. uh, Now, as we started our session with the discussing of different network calls. Okay. uh, we have REST APIs which internally use the HTTP calls. Okay. We have GraphQL calls. Okay. Where we do mutations and other things in order to get our required data. Different way of connecting to server. But for our edge cases, sorry, for our cases, we're gonna learn about basic HTTP calls. Okay. And the library that I am sharing, or the library that we are going to learn today, is only based for HTTP calls. for graphical calls and other network calls, we might have different ways of handling the request and response. Okay. Now, generally, how things happen. Let's assume that we are using of HTTP calls using REST API architecture. What generally happens? A client, which is our mobile phone, okay, it can be anything, desktop or any web or anything. So what the client do, it sends a request through our architecture pattern, whatever we are using through, let's say, for simplicity, let's say HTTP calls. Okay, the HTTP calls then connect and uh, get back to database. Okay, the database takes the query or whatever the request has been made, try to understand it, and then on the basis of that send some response. Okay, now the response can be success, error. Okay, and uh, how we determine it is through different status code. Okay, so we're gonna have a look into that in a bit. But generally how we connect through servers is through REST APIs, through HTTP calls, and basically we send a request. Within some time we get a response, and then we act based on our type of response we are getting. Okay, so I hope this basic thing makes sense how we communicate through a server. Cool, cool. Okay, now I am pretty sure you all have might be heard of HTTP calls. uh will anyone want to volunteer and want to like what they and what you understand about HTTP calls in general?
So to perform basic operations such as CRUD operations within the network, we use HTTP calls such as get, put, post, and delete.
Correct, correct. So for REST API, uh, the HTTP calls act as a CRUD operations, which do the basic operations that we need for our communication between our server. That is the get request, where we just retrieve the data from the server. Okay, post request is kind of a thing where we submit the data. Okay, so adds data to an existing file or resource. Okay, uh, put is something where we wanted to update existing data. Delete, the name itself makes sense. Okay, apart from this there are many things within your career you will get to know how you can implement it, but these four are the very basic one that you will find out in your day-to-day development. Okay, so get is to retrieve the data from the server, just a simple plain request that I have this URL, please return me some data. Okay, post is something where you add a data to a server. So while you are adding, you not only send the request via URL but also sends a body. Okay, which contains the data that you wanted to add upon. Okay, put similarly to post, but it is helpful for updating the stuff. And delete, as you might know, it deletes the data from the server. So it might take some values in the base of key or values in the base of some identity in way you wanted to delete a specific data. Okay, cool. Moving forward. Okay, now in Android, there are various ways of making an HTTP call. There are like multiple libraries out there that we can use. Okay, but for our use case, we gonna learn about Retrofit. Okay, Retrofit was a library developed by Square. Okay, which was then officially supported by Google and recommended by Google, that use Retrofit to make a HTTP call in your Android device. Okay, basically in your JVM devices. Okay, so uh, retrofit internally uses Android components only to make a HTTP call, but comes with lots of features and ease of writing code, which generally why we use the this package. Okay, so if I go to retrofit, okay, so this is the documentation. Okay, you will find a lot of documentation and resources regarding retrofit as per the Android context, but you can see a type safe HTTP client for Android and Java. Okay, so basically we wanted the context for Android, so we are good to go to use the retrofit. Okay, so generally how retrofit works is something like you create an interface. Okay, you define all the things that you wanted, uh, annotate it with the specific HTTP call that you wanted to build. Okay, then process it to retrofit. Okay, and then retrofit will be uh, dealing with all the rest of the work that is required to make a HTTP call. Okay, handling the success, handling the failure, handling different things for you internally, and will give you out the response that you are seeking for. Okay, now to create a retrofit object, we need to have a retrofit builder. Okay, which takes a base URL, and we build the retrofit object and then provide our interface. Okay, now पहली बात मेरे को ये बताओ, how many of you understand interface? Harsh, Raj, till now we have discussed interface a lot. How you all understand an interface? No, no. This is like I'm asking ki, what do you mean by interface? Yeah, Harsh, Raj, go ahead.
So interface is used to like create a pattern for a class. Like if I have a car class in which I have engine, different brake, and different other things. So interface will act as a mediator for those.
Okay, Raj.
ये सर लाइक जैसा हर्ष भैया ने बोला कि इंटरफेस वही है, मतलब कि एक ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑफ मेथड डिफाइन कर देता है सारे क्लासेस के लिए, उनको फिर उनको इम्प्लीमेंट होने के लिए।
Yes, sir. It is a contract between those. Like I will give you these things, and it is uh, this only.
Correct, correct. So the main keyword that I can extract out here is the contract word, right? जैसे कि let's let's see this in a more abstract way. Okay, for example, if I tell in a restaurant that I am hungry, bring something. Let's say bring something is a method. Okay, now assume that bring something is an interface I've given to the uh, manager of the restaurant. Now that bring something can be anything. It can be South Indian food, it can be Chinese food, it can be uh, French food, Italian food, anything. Okay, so मैंने bring something उसको बोला. Okay, this is an contract that I have given कि bring something. Now because a food can be anything. A food can be Italian food, French food, or whatever, right? South Indian, Punjabi, or whatever, right? So if I say that bring something, what it will do, it will bring me uh, bring me any food that he is able to interpret. But when I say bring food of, let's say, Indian food. So based on that input, he will provide me the Indian food. Okay. So if I draw you or try to explain you via diagram, हमने क्या बोला, हमने एक नेटवर्क, we have created a network service. Okay. इसके अंदर this is an interface. Okay. Now fetch data, let's say fetch data is an interface. Okay. Now what happens, what happen when we give this interface network service, okay, to our retrofit builder? What happens internally, retrofit implements this service. Okay. इसको implement करता है, internally it creates a class. Okay. Of, let's say, network service class. Okay. उसको implement करता है, and जो जो हमने डेटा दिया था, ओके, फेच डेटा, ओके, जैसे मैंने इसको एट द रेट गेट से इसको मैंने गेट से डिनोट किया हुआ है। ओके। और मैंने यहाँ पे कुछ वैल्यूज दी हुई है और मैंने रिटर्न टाइप दिया हुआ है। ओके। रिटर्न टाइप लेट से टी। सो रेट्रोफिट क्या करेगा, इस इंटरफेस को इम्प्लीमेंट करेगा। ओके। एंड will have the implementation inside it, जो जो बहुत सारा बॉलर प्लेट कोड रहता है वो इम्प्लीमेंट करेगा और हमें डेटा देगा। बट फ्रॉम द आउटसाइड, फ्रॉम एज अ डेवलपर, यू जस्ट केयर अबाउट दिस इंटरफेस, राइट, कि इसमें क्या हो रहा है, इसमें मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ। अब चीजें अंदर कैसे इम्प्लीमेंट हो रही है, क्या उसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन है, क्या अंदर हो रहा है, कैसे हो रहा है, वी आर नॉट इंटरेस्टेड अबाउट दैट। वी आर जस्ट सेइंग कि मैंने गेट रिक्वेस्ट मारी है इस यूआरएल पे, प्लीज गिव मी डेटा। दैट्स प्रीटी मच इट। ओके। सो इंटरफेस इज लाइक अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट we have given to retrofit. Okay. Retrofit tries to understand the contract on the best of its knowledge, and gives us some thing back which we use in order to uh, have our requirements. Okay. ये समझ में आया? Cool. अच्छा, Raj, have you attended the room db class?
No, sir, but I am watching that video. I have completed half.
Okay. Are you aware about DAO objects, DAO interface?
सर लाइक not really, मतलब उतना अभी हुआ नहीं है मेरा।
Okay. So if you in future ever watch the DAO video or the room db that we have gone through, the similar pattern happens. Okay. Let me just revise that thing up. Okay. Just a second. Okay. हम क्या करते थे, दिस इज फॉर हर्ष एज वेल। इंटरफेस लेट से हमने नोट डाउ करके कुछ बनाया। ओके। हम क्या करते थे, कंपाइलर को बता देते थे कि दिस इज अ डाउ। ओके। एंड इसके अंदर वी यूज टू write our functions, our things that we required. Okay. Get me data or uh, fetch notes. ओके। हम इसको बता देते थे कि हमें ये चाहिए। ओके। नाउ नाउ when you have annotated the note and entity with @entity, okay, and if you have given this interface @dao, okay, now, and you have provided this note dao to room db roomdb instance. While creating a database instance, you have provided the DAO. So database internally क्या करता है, इस interface contract को लेता है, okay, at the compile time only, interpreted कि क्या बोलना चाह रहा है ये इंटरफेस के थ्रू डेवलपर। ओके, अच्छा इसको ये मेथड चाहिए मिल जाएगा, ये मेथड चाहिए मिल जाएगा। In somewhere he the room database is not able to understand कि what the developer have written, तो ये क्या करता है, it returns an exception that I am not able to understand, please clarify more data into it, okay. If it is able to understand, then in the compile time only, like when the your app is building, then only it able to understand it and provide you within class with the implementation of it, okay। मतलब अंदर एक क्लास बन जाती है विच डू ऑल द इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, एंड वेन एवर यू कॉल दिस फेच नोड क्लास, दिस मेथड, इसके अंदर बहुत बड़ा इम्प्लीमेंटेशन लिखा रहता है विच कवर्स वेरियस एच केसेस एंड डिफरेंट थिंग्स that is been implemented by the framework, and you just have to worry about the data it is returning or not, okay, and based on that you can continue building your application, okay। So similarly things happen in our retrofit client as well। हम इसको एक इंटरफेस देते हैं, ओके, सेइंग कि भाई इसमें गेट रिक्वेस्ट चाहिए, ये मेथड का नाम होगा, ये रिटर्न टाइप होगा, ये मेथड ये रिटर्न टाइप होगा, एंड आई प्रोवाइड दिस इंटरफेस, दिस गिटहब इंटरफेस टू माय retrofit client, okay, and while making a call I am able to access it like this way, okay, and we are able to get the response, okay। so ये थोड़ा सा चीज अगर समझ में आया तो let me know, we will move forward, okay। I'll showcase you the implementation, okay। so if I build this retrofit basic client app, you can have a look that I'm able to fetch the data from a server and able to showcase in the app, okay। so I'm using this random API, which generally reveals or which generally gives us the cat fact, facts about cat, okay, and then we can use it uh, in our client, that is our Android app, okay, cool। Before proceeding, let me also share this thing, APIs, okay। so if I say APIs, what you all understand by API?
application
application
programming
programming.
interface.
ये तो उसका फुल फॉर्म हो गया, बट आप लोग क्या समझते हो?
Sir, if we go into any hotel, there it acts as a waiter.
हैं, गिव मोर डिटेल।
Uh, API is a mediator between the server and the client.
करेक्ट करेक्ट, मतलब मैं नहीं चाहूंगा कि मैं डायरेक्ट डेटाबेस में कॉल करूं या आप अपने यूजर को डेटाबेस का एक्सेस दे दो, right? That will be a disaster. If somebody make a request that will delete all the entries, then it will be a disaster. So what we do, we create a mediator called APIs, which has certain set of rules, which a client can access, and based on that APIs only, then we can access the database, okay। I think Raj is more aware of those things, that if we wanted to connect through a server, we generally do via API. Okay. So if you are ordering food, the request goes to the waiter there, okay, or a manager there. The manager tells to the chef that the customer wants this thing. Then the chef cooks that, give it to the waiter, and then waiter give us to us. Okay. So similarly, we have uh, we have this API. Okay, this is an HTTP protocol, okay, of type get. Okay, where I'm saying he give me written fact about a cat. Okay, if I run it, you can see I'm getting a response from the server that this is a fact containing of a length of this. Okay, so in our application today we are going to build this thing only. Okay, if I run this app again, okay, you can see at initially the data for the fact was null. Till the time it was fetching, it was null. Once the data got fetched, then we are able to showcase a fact about cat. Okay, like in real world examples, a backend developer of your team will be giving you APIs, key do this, do that. Okay, and will give you the documentation, key this is an API which returns this thing, takes this thing, and is type of a get port put kind of a HTTP call request, and using that you will integrate it into your Android app. Okay, now as we are talking about integration, okay, let's try to rebuild this app from scratch and see how we can do it. Okay, now I will go to not open, I will create a new oh, oh, I will create a new project. Okay, empty activity, mini life projects only. We gonna name it retrofit demo. Okay, we gonna finish it. I hope the fonts are visible. Cool. Okay, so let's remove the things that we don't want. Okay, remove this thing as well. Okay, let's try to uh, uh, rearrange our packages. Okay, so I'm going to create a package called data. Okay, this data will contain package called network. Okay, this this data can also contain local. Okay, because we are dealing with the data layer over here in this package. Okay, now here I will create a file called network cat fact service. Okay, now following through the documentation, let me make it like this way, this, this, and this. Okay, so following through the documentation, let's go step by step. Okay, so we need to create a interface and define our methods over there. Okay, so we're gonna create an interface. Okay, something like this. Okay, and we're gonna create a function. Okay, because retrofit now support coroutines as well, we can define our methods based on this as well. Okay, uh, get a get a cat fact. Okay, which will return as a cat fact. Okay, response. Okay, now हमें ये कैट फैक्ट वाला रिस्पॉन्स चाहिए, राइट? ये रिस्पॉन्स चाहिए, बट हमें रिस्पॉन्स कैसा टाइप का मिल रहा है? हमें रिस्पॉन्स मिल रहा है जेसन टाइप का। ओके, तो हमें इसका एक ऑब्जेक्ट बनाना पड़ेगा, राइट? So I will just copy it. Okay, I will come to Android Studio. I will come to here, create a package called models. Okay, and here I will go to this Kotlin data class file from JSON. Okay, so this is a handy plugin that every Android developer use for creating Pojo classes in order to make this network calls. Okay, so how you can install it? You can go to the plugin section. Plugin section में कैसे जाएंगे? Android Studio settings. Okay, plugins, and here just search for JSON to Kotlin class converter. Okay, so in my case I have already installed it. You can also install the same. Okay, once installed, go to here and give it the JSON that you wanted to have a class for. Okay, I will name it as get response. Okay, go to the advanced settings, and here you can do various uh, various alterations based on your need. Okay, for for time being I have put it of type well, which is nullable, and have the default settings. Okay, so if I do this, you can see we have created a cat fact response class. Okay, which I can give to my interface. Okay, till here we are good. Now we wanted to annotate it with the get request. Okay, but in order to use it the get, we need to implement the library. Okay, so we need to go to their GitHub repository. So this is for the retrofit. Okay, uh let me quickly grab it from our already built project. Okay, so uh let's take this retrofit instance. Okay, retrofit library basically. Okay, in my demo I'm using 2.90. You can always use the 2.2.11.0. Okay, once I have imported the retrofit library, okay, I can come here, and still you can see I'm not able to process this uh, get part. Maybe I've read it written it wrong. Okay, we still need few other libraries and implementation in order to resolve it. Okay, so we need this OKHTTP part. Okay, I'm gonna take it here. Okay, let's see if else what we need to do. Nothing here, nothing here. Okay, let me check. Cool, now let's try to sync it. Now we are able to get the retrofit to http kind uh, uh, http get request. Okay, so we wanted to fetch the fact part of this API, so I'm gonna say get the fact API. Okay, and the rest we gonna give it into the base URL. Okay, that we gonna have a look in a bit. Okay, now uh this is being done. Okay, let me also explain you about this OKHTTP. Okay, retrofit library that you see in Android is the very top level thing uh, that is been exposed and we use. Okay, generally the funnel diagram is something like this. Okay, we have a sets of various libraries, and on the top of it we have a retrofit. Okay, so we have OKIO, a library. We have OKHTTP. Okay, H- let me write it down for you. OKHTTP library. Okay, and we also have OK.io. Okay, now I will gonna share you a link in our channel where I will where the creator of this library have explained how the things work internally, and it's such a beautiful explanation. While watching it, you will understand how actually things internally work. Okay, so whenever we make an HTTP call, whenever we get a data, the library goes everything step by step. Okay, by character interpret it and gives us some the feedback, gives us the output. Okay, and based on that we do certain operation. So how a library handles that, if you gonna have a look into that, you will understand things better. Okay, so always remember, retrofit is the very top level of thing. Beside this, we are using lots of other libraries to support this functionality. Okay, so if we are getting this get request, we are getting it from the http http library. Okay, though it should be coming from the retrofit only, but it's a part of it and coming from this uh, um, lower levels only. Okay, now this things has been done. What we need to do, we need to create a instance of a रेट्रोफिट बिल्डर. ओके, हमने इंटरफेस दे दिया, अब हमें रेट्रोफिट बिल्डर बनाना है. ओके, so I'm gonna take that, but ये तो जावा में है. We gonna do something like private val retrofit retrofit. Am I missing something? अच्छा, for some instance my id is not showing it, but anyway, retrofit dot builder. Okay, now this is a builder pattern where we keep on adding our data as per our requirement. हमें जो जो चीजें लगेगी हम वो देते जाएंगे. तो सबसे पहले हमें एक बेस यूआरएल देना पड़ेगा, राइट. नाउ this is something we gonna copy. Okay, always remember your base url should end with a slash. Okay, and the things doesn't end up here. You can add lots of stuff. Okay, you can add a call adapter factory. Okay, uh there is one more thing. There is the converter factory that we're gonna have a look. Okay, there was interpreter as well, but again that's out of scope for thing. But uh, we're gonna come to that in while the end of this video. Okay, so providing the base url, and we're gonna say build. Okay, now हमने retrofit का इंस्टेंस बना लिया, हमने इंटरफेस बना लिया. अब हमें इन दोनों चीजों को जोड़ना है. ओके, नाउ हमें इन चीजों को जोड़ते हुए इन मतलब हम जो इंस्टेंस बनाएंगे, हम चाहेंगे कि वो चीजें बार बार ना बने. राइट, हम चाहेंगे कि that instance that we are building be always be singleton, so that this heavy operation doesn't get repeated again and again, and we get a compile time safe instance whenever we use it. Okay, so what we're gonna say, object network service. Okay, uh well, uh what should we name it? uh, uh cat API or cat fact service, or we have already given it, or let it be simple service. Okay, okay, by lazy. Okay, we gonna say retrofit the instance we have built dot uh what was that method? Let me see. Create. Okay, retrofit dot create, it takes a service. Okay, and we gonna provide the uh cat service here. Okay, like this, it gonna be of type cat service, something like this. Okay, so मैंने इसको बोला कि मेरे को इस इंटरफेस टाइप का ऑब्जेक्ट चाहिए विच गोना बी क्रिएटेड बाय द रेट्रोफिट। ओके, मैंने रेट्रोफिट को बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग दे दी कि आपका बेस यूआरएल ये रहेगा, और उसमें जो भी मैं मेथड्स कॉल करूँगा उसका आप मेरे को प्लीज़ इम्प्लीमेंटेशन प्रोवाइड करके दे दीजिएगा। तो इट विल क्रिएट अस द इम्प्लीमेंटेशन फॉर अस, we just have to use this service class, service object. Okay, so once this being done, what we have to do, we have to create the UI layer now. Okay, the network layer is done, we now need to create a UI layer. So come to this, not like this, we will create a package, gonna say feature, uh, uh, package, we can say get fact, or let's say cat only. Okay, then we can create a composable first. Okay, so we gonna say cat fact screen. Okay, simple, how we used to do cat fact screen. Okay, which will be taking a scaffold. Okay, the scaffold will be taking the entire space, so modifier dot fill max size. Okay, the scaffold will having a body of column. Okay, again the modifier dot fill max size. Okay, to remove the error we need to provide the padding. Okay, so it will be like something like this. Okay, to make our things into the center, we're gonna say vertical arrangement to center and horizontal arrangement alignment to be center. Okay, then we gonna take our text. Okay, and we gonna say we now we wanted to have a access of our cat response object. Okay, so to do so, what we need to do, we need to create a view model. Okay, so cat fact view model, which will having all the state for us. Okay, okay, something like this. Cool. Okay, now we will create a variable, well, fact. Okay, by mutable state of type cat fact response, which should be nullable in the instance. Okay, we're gonna import the all the necessary uh, uh, necessary dependencies for this. Okay, now I'm gonna say init fetch a cat fact. Okay, which will be a normal function. So now in order to make a API call, we need a coroutine. Okay, we cannot make it in the normal main thread. We're gonna discuss it in our class from Monday, when we're gonna discuss about coroutines and flows in a very depth. But for time being, understand it, because a network request can take some time, which can block the main thread, so it can leads to an errors. So we generally make our um network request in a specific different thread apart from the main thread. Okay, so to execute things apart from the main thread, we use a view model scope. Internally this is a main thread only, but uh, our retrofit client is smart enough, when they understand that some scope has been provided, it doesn't block the main thread and we are good to go. Okay, so I'm gonna get the response, okay, by calling our method from here. Okay, in the cat service class. So I'm gonna say network service dot service dot get a cat fact API call. So if I go to here, you see it is leading me to this interface, which saying that you just use the interface, the implementation will be handled by the retrofit. Okay, so coming back to our view model, what we're gonna do, we're gonna check if response dot fact dot is not is null or empty dot not. Okay, if it is not empty, then we're gonna say fact is equal to response. Okay, now we need to make it of type var. Okay, and this is done. Else we're gonna say fact is equal to uh, or it is null by default. Okay, though handling of UI states might be little different here. Okay, we're gonna discuss it once we come back to our last project of this course. Okay, when we learn about the coroutines and flows in detail, then we're gonna have a better understanding of this state handling in view model. Okay, now we have a state which, based on some functionality, handles the state. Okay, now in our screen, what we're gonna do, we're gonna say, well, view model of type cat fact view model by is equal to, acha, it is saying view model factory. In order to resolve it, what we need to do, we need to go here and import this lifecycle view model dependency. Okay, so here, this is for retrofit and this is for our view model. Oops. Okay, sync now. Okay, so now I can use by view model or equal to view model. Okay, now we have the view model object. What we gonna say, fact, give us the fact that is coming from the view model dot fact dot fact. Okay, now we're gonna give it some style, text style textile where the font size is, let's say, 24 sp. Okay, this is the unit for uh, font size in compose, the sp. Okay, now we also wanted to give some padding, but I wanted to create a new modifier, not from that, and I'm gonna say 16.dp padding. Cool. Now let's call this part from our main activity as well. We're gonna say get fact screen, something like this, which takes some modifier dot fill dot padding of inner padding. Okay, something like this. Now let's recap what we have done. सबसे पहले हमने एक स्क्रीन बनाई. सबसे पहले हमने एक स्क्रीन बनाई जिसमें हमने टेक्स्ट दिया और टेक्स्ट में कहा कि प्लीज यूज दिस डेटा क्लास and inflate the fact string. Okay, this fact string is coming from the model class that we have created using the JSON response that we was getting. Okay, now to maintain the state, we have created a view model. Okay, where we have created a state giving it a null value by default, and whenever this view model will get initialized, this init block will get called, and this init block is calling a suspend function, or basically a network request for us. Okay, then we are taking the response in a variable, checking if response is not null. If it is not null, then we are setting this fact state with some value. Okay, now in our network area, we have created an interface, called it a get request, which takes the endpoint as a fact. Okay, अगर मैं आपको पूरा API दिखाऊं, so it's a get request which calls this domain, and at the end call the fact of it. Okay, which is written as this a object, JSON object with some data over it. Okay, now if I run this app, what should be the output? I give you option. हमने सब चीज दे दिया है, चीजें सही चल रही है. It gonna going to crash or it gonna work fine? Blank screen. Okay, let's try to run this app. The app got crashed. Okay, so let's see what we get the output. Unable to create converter for class cat fact response. Okay, so unable to create converter for class this. Okay, also one thing I was expecting to showcase was this, that we haven't provided the internet permission for our project, so let's provide it from here. Okay, now coming back to the error. So illegal argument exception, saying that not able to convert this fact fact response. Okay, so with that being said, let's discuss about this, that is serialization. Okay, अभी क्या हो रहा है, when we are hitting this API. Okay, let's assume our app was able to hit this API successfully. The response was able to get, you can see 200. Okay, we were able to get the response successfully, but बट इन अवर केस जब इस सस्पेंड फंक्शन को ये चीज रिटर्न करनी थी, अब हम रिटर्न टाइप में क्या बोल रहे हैं कि रिटर्न टाइप में हमें चाहिए गेट फैक्ट्स रिस्पॉन्स वाली डेटा क्लास, राइट? हमें डेटा क्लास चाहिए, बट एपीआई रिटर्न कर रही है, एपीआई इज रिटर्निंग एज अ स्ट्रिंग और बेसिकली a json object. Okay, and so the retrofit client is not able to understand in the sense, जैसे कि आप बोल रहे हो एक साउथ इंडियन रेस्टोरेंट में जाके that I wanted to eat Punjabi food. Okay, so it is not possible there. Okay, the the person will not able to provide you that. Okay, so what we gonna do, we need to create a converter which explicitly tell आवर रेट्रोफिट क्लाइंट कि अगर फैक्ट टाइप का कुछ आपको की वैल्यू मिल रही है विच हैव ऑब्जेक्ट, ओके, आप इसको इस वेरिएबल में असाइन कर दो, और जो आपको लेंथ टाइप का जो डेटा आ रहा है आप इसको इस चीज में असाइन कर दो. ओके, so to do the this stuff this stuff internally, what we do, we generally annotate things with a serializable annotation. Okay, to get this annotation, what we need to do, we need to add this converters. Okay, so I'm gonna make it like something like this. We'll pick it up. Okay, just hold a second, I'm gonna explain you this thing. Those are the converters. Okay, in order to make it work we need to do some more things like this, like this. Okay, sync now. Okay, so let's get back into the API, the documentation. Okay, okay, so basically what it is saying कि by default whatever we get from the response as a output, we generally get it in the form of a string or a json object, right? but हमें json object मिल जाएगा तो हमारी काम का नहीं, we need to convert it to a data class object so that we can use it in our UI. Okay, so to do so, what we say, we say we give it a serializable annotation. Okay, and if needed we can say serial name, I can provide it name. Okay, and I can do the same for here. Okay, let's wait a second for Raj to join. I think some network issue, just a minute, let's wait for him. I think he's facing some network issue or might be busy. No problem. So, I was talking about serializable. With that, what I'm saying, because I have marked this, sorry, it should be fact. Okay. So, what I'm saying to my converter, that whatever response you get, okay, if the JSON object contains a key with the type fact, okay, please serialize it for me in this variable and put the value in this variable. Okay, whatever matches with this name. Okay, the same will gonna happen with this length keyword okay, key, and whatever the value it is coming, it will get assigned it to this variable. Okay, for for now, this fact and length are the simple names, and that also the same that we wanted to use. So by default, whatever we give here, okay, what we have created here, the serializable is smart enough to understand ki if a variable name with the fact wants to uh, extract the data from this fact key. Okay, if I show you this diagram, with that you will get to understand that if I wanted to convert this JSON object to a data class, I will define some variables, and I will create uh, the variables with the same name of the key, and the serializable will be smart enough to uh, to map that data to this data class, and then we will be very simply will able to use this data class. Okay, so now I have provided a serializable. The another step that we wanted to do, tell the retrofit that a client that whatever response you get, see uh, if this response that whatever it is coming can be converted to a using this converter. Okay, which is json dot as uh, converter factory media type of say application type dot dot to media type. Okay, so what I'm saying, whatever the response you are getting, which is in our case a json response of type application type. Okay, please convert it, use this converter to convert the response to a data class. Okay, in order to make this thing happen and the compiler know that the things should be compiled into this thing or convert into this thing, we need to annotate it with the serializable keyword. Okay, now always make sure to give the converter factory before giving the base url. Okay, I was facing some weird issue, might be some other issue, but just a heads up for that. Okay, now if I pull up my emulator and try to run things again, and boom, we are able to achieve the network request in our Android application, where I am making a network call to the cat factcat open API, where we were able to showcase a fact over here. Okay, let's say button on click. Let us do something like this. Cats can be right pod or the right pod. Okay, see, now we can make multiple requests with a touch of a button. We are able to fetch the data out of an API. Okay, so the moral of the story, we were getting a JSON object, we converted to a data object, as we are already familiar, and then using it in order to showcase the data that we wanted to showcase. Okay, so I hope uh, you might have learned new things today. Just wanted to check, Harsh, would you like to share that if you have understand about the serialization in Kotlin or in retrofit? Cool. Okay, so moral of the story, we were getting a JSON object. To convert it to a data object, we have added we have added a serializable to our response class. Okay, and give a converter that whenever a JSON type comes, convert it to a the data class. Okay, now the things doesn't end up here. uh, I will request the viewers and the people who are enrolled in this course to try this network request with multiple HTTP calls, that is post, that is put and delete. Okay, try to find some open API, free APIs, and build an application. Okay, now there are multiple things. For example, in a GET request, try to learn how you can make a query, uh, make a query request as well. So let's say if I put it some random name over here and do something. Okay, so this is an another API which is of type get HTTP request only, but takes an query parameter. Once provided, it based on that gives a different output. So if I provided Rahul, similarly if I provide Modi ji, okay, so I get different kind of output. Okay, so this is how we can send query parameters in a get request. The same thing you can do in retrofit as well. Okay, but that will be an assignment or for you to learn and find through. Okay, uh, and use different HTTP calls methods to learn more about the networking in Android. Okay, now if you are gone very familiar with the retrofit, the new way of making a network call in Android is using the uh, Ktor framework. Okay, uh, okay, is generally uh, yeah. So generally, you can do the same uh, HTTP calls using Ktor. Okay, as we have annotations here in Ktor, we have methods. Okay, it's a better approach of making HTTP calls in Android, or generally the latest ways of doing things. But in order to understand this, it's always better to first start with the retrofit, learn few things basic, and then jump into the Ktor part. Okay, now to conclude this, uh, before wrapping up, I would like to know if there is any doubt. If anyone has any doubt, you can go ahead and ask it right away.
Sir, I have seen somewhere that we use JSON some instead of Kotlin and serialization. So when to use which one?
Correct, correct. So if you go to their documentation, okay, you can see there are various types of converters available in the community. The JSON also do the same, Moshit also do the same, and the retrofit JSON, sorry, the Kotlin serializable JSON converter also do the same. It's up to you how better understanding of converters do you have, And if you think someone is faster or better than other, you can use that. Okay, generally that comes with the Kotlin official one is generally considered the best one, but you can also create your own converters. Okay, or or you can use either of them which is available in the market. Okay, I remember I used to use JSON a lot, but in the latest document I see JSON, so I try to kept it with the Google recommended way only, but you can have an experiment with that. Okay, cool. Now the other part that I wanted to share before wrapping up this session, let me just put it in this way. Okay, now till now you have enough Android knowledge to build good applications without much considering about the best practice or about the performance optimization. You have enough knowledge to build a good amount or good quality of applications which involve room database, networking, using compose, having understanding of view model, having understanding of repository patterns. Okay, so if you go through any intermediate projects over GitHub, you can read it, understand it, learn from it, and build it. Okay, though I'm always sharing my code base with you all, but with little practice and reading the code and the learnings we are grabbing in these sessions, we are capable enough to build good quality Android applications as the session progresses to the end. Okay, but still we have 1 week left where we're gonna discuss or learn about the asynchronous programming in Android using coroutines and flow. That topic is a little complicated, but I will try my best to keep it simple so you understand more, grab more, and write code with all the understanding behind it. Okay, so that whenever you debug things, you understand what went wrong at what area. Okay, so with that being said, let's wrap up this call. Let's meet tomorrow. We're gonna build a chat application, improvement upon it. Okay, and from Monday we're gonna start learning about coroutines. Okay, so that's pretty much it. See you tomorrow.